It was a bitterly cold New Year's Eve, and the snow was falling heavily, cloaking the city in a blanket of white. Darkness was gathering, and through the twilight a poor little girl wandered the streets, barefoot and bare. She had slippers when she left home, but they were no use. They were her mother's, far too big for her own tiny feet. And she'd lost them both while scurrying across the street to escape to carriages that were racing by. One slipper was nowhere to be found, and the other had been snatched by a boy who ran off with it, jeering that it would make a fine cradle for his own child one day. So now the little girl walked on with her naked feet, which were red and blue from the cold. In an old apron she carried a bundle of matches, and she held a small packet of them in her hand. All day long she had walked and walked, but no one had bought a single match from her, and no one had given her a single penny. She was shivering with cold and hunger, a picture of pure misery. Snowflakes settled on her long, fair hair, which curled beautifully around her neck, but she wasn't thinking about her appearance. From every window lights were shining, and the delicious smell of roast goose filled the air. It was New Year's Eve, after all, and that was all she could think about. She found a corner formed by two houses, one of which stuck out a little farther into the street than the other. She huddled down, drawing her little feet up under her, but she only felt colder. She didn't dare go home, for she had sold no matches and earned no money. Her father would surely be angry, and besides, it was almost as cold at home. They lived in an attic, and the wind whistled through the gaps in the roof, even though they had stuffed the largest cracks with straw and rags. Her little hands were almost numb with cold. Oh, a match might do some good, if she only dared to take one from the bundle, strike it against the wall, and warm her fingers. She pulled one out. Rich! How it sputtered and burned! It gave off a warm, bright flame, like a tiny candle, as she held her hands over it. What a wonderful light it was! It seemed to the little girl that she was sitting in front of a great iron stove with polished brass knobs and brass ornaments. The fire burned so beautifully and gave off such a lovely warmth. She stretched out her feet to warm them too, but then the little flame went out. The stove vanished, and she was left sitting with the stump of a burnt-out match in her hand. She struck another. It burned clearly, and where the light fell on the wall, the brick became transparent like a veil, so she could see into the room. A table was set with a gleaming white cloth, fine porcelain, and at its center a magnificent roast goose, stuffed with apples and prunes, was steaming invitingly. And then, what was even more marvelous, the goose hopped down from the dish, waddled across the floor with a knife and fork still in its back, and came right up to the poor girl. Then the match went out, and nothing was left but the thick, cold, damp wall. She lit another match. This time she was sitting under the most beautiful Christmas tree. It was even larger and more splendidly decorated than the one she had seen through the glass doors of the rich merchant-esque house last year. Thousands of candles were burning on its green branches, and colorful pictures, like the ones in the shop windows, looked down at her. The little girl reached her hands toward them, and the match went out. The Christmas lights rose higher and higher, and she saw that they were now the bright stars in the sky. One of them fell, leaving a long trail of fire across the darkness. "Someone is dying," whispered the little girl, for her old grandmother, the only person who had ever loved her and who was now gone, had told her that when a star falls, a soul is going up to be with God. She struck another match against the wall. It lit up all around her, and in the glow stood her old grandmother, so bright and shining, so gentle and full of love. "Grandmother," cried the little one, "oh, take me with you. I know you will disappear when the match goes out, just like the warm stove, the lovely roast goose, and the big, glorious Christmas tree." And she quickly struck the whole bundle of mahasses, for she wanted to keep her grandmother with her. The matches flared up with such a blaze that it was brighter than daylight. Her grandmother had never looked so tall or so beautiful. She took the little girl in her arms, and they flew upwards in brightness and joy, high, high above the earth, to a place where there was no cold, no hunger, and no fear. They were with God. But in the cold dawn, in the corner by the house, the little girl sat with rosy cheeks and a smile on her lips. She was frozen to death on the last evening of the old year. The New Year's sun rose on a little figure. She sat there, still holding the matches, one bundle of which was almost completely burned. She was trying to warm herself, people said. No one imagined the beautiful things she had seen, or in what glory she had entered with her grandmother into the joy of the new year. It's a heartbreaking story, but it reminds us to be kind, to look out for one another, and to cherish the warmth and love we have in our lives. Thank you so much for joining me to listen to this classic tale. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories. Stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see you next time.